Let Daddy decide.
Which is How Do I? And this is one that you brought.
Yeah, so there's a little article before we say the how do I part. There's a little thing off of Reddit I found that I thought was something we'd talk about at some point, and this is that point. So this is from Little Ease on Reddit under r/dad, and it says, "I hear this phrase echoed often, or you're such a good dad." Is the quote. I hear this phrase echoed often when I take my young toddler and infant to either run errands or hang out at the coffee shop on a Saturday morning. Yet I don't feel like a good dad. I feel tormented by my own demons, my own personal struggles. By outward appearances, I look passable as a father figure. Internally, I am conflicted, wrestling in my own head. I look present with my children, but my head space is in another dimension. I want to be so much more for my children, my wife, and my family, but I'm struggling to fix myself. So I'm bringing in the how do I feel like a good dad?
There's so many nuances to that question because there's a lot of people that feel like a good dad that are bad dads. You know, you know, and
And
so
there's also good dads who feel bad.
yeah, and so a lot of that is personal perception of yourself, whether or not. So it's, I guess it's first you have to come to terms with you and know who you are, and then have a realization, I guess, or you have to put forth your best effort and realize that you're putting forth your best effort. Regardless of what other people are doing, you can only do your best. And if you are doing your best for your kids, you are a good dad. If you are putting forth your best, I mean, that's as much as anyone can ask of you is for you to put forth your best.
Okay,
But
sometimes people's best is still hurting kids, and
so you're not wrong. And in my opinion, that's a lot what marriage is for. And I feel sorry for anyone who's a single parent because it's hard. Because when you're having an off day, at least this is how it works in my marriage. When I'm having an off day, my wife helps pick up the slack. When she's having an off day, I help pick up the slack for her. And so
you're a liar. She never has an off day. Kelsey, you hear that? He's saying you're crap. I stood up for you.
And so it's anyone who looks at marriage as a 50-50 is doing it wrong, in my opinion.
Go back to the daddy thing, though. There's still
no, you're not wrong.
Raised. I would say, and Kurt, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Is three somewhat different generational takes on age of our kids, not necessarily generational, but I think the first thing to becoming a good dad is understanding no matter how good you are, you're gonna mess your kids up. You're gonna mess something up because you're still learning as a person. And if you come to terms with similar to what Joe is saying, that I'm gonna be self-aware and notice when I mess my kids up or do something to hurt them, and then work to teach them from it and grow. I think that's a big step to understanding that being a father is a lot more than how you feel inside and how you take them to the park. What do you think, Kurt? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I think we're only truly ever honest with ourselves. I generally speaking, I mean, there are some exceptions, but I think that in your heart, you know whether or not you've done right that day. As a dad, as a person, whatever, however that works out. But I also think that there's a couple of things that we don't like to talk about because we shouldn't be validated by this, but it doesn't matter because it's true. When we get outside validation, that gives a positive spin on our kids. That is somewhat validating that you've done right by them in the moment, not as a whole, but in the moment, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so, like, I've had people come up and say, "Man, your kids are so well behaved." At which point I could go at that moment, I could go, thank you very much, and feel validated that I did something right at that point. Now, the problem with how to feel like a good dad is I don't believe it's easy to know that in the moment, because you're just doing what you like at any given moment. You're doing what you think is right in the moment. And
If
yeah,
you think about it,
you might have a time to think about it, but you don't know what the outcome's really going to be until much later.
well, no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about if you think about the decisions you're making. Most people, my father included, just kind of did things and just didn't think about, well, let me choose a moment. Let me use my words. Let me see
It's
what's going to be
very
the outcome here.
it's very situational, right?
Just
There
flowing
are
through it.
times where you can take that step back
There's
and
the
you
guy who wrote
go,
this statement. Sounds like he was
but
there. Like, I'm always in my own head, type of dealing with my deal.
yeah. But I think that honestly, I can look back now and think that I was a pretty good dad. I'm not going to say I'm the best dad. That's craziness.
That's me.
But okay. Um, so we have different definitions. That's okay. So, but what I can do at this age now, and with two grown adult kids, and with a grandchild and another one on the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
There
congratulations.
you go.
Thank you. And not that I really did anything, but but I can look at them more objectively now, each individual kid, and go, you know what? I did a pretty good job. And at the end of the day, I think if you can look at your kids and say, you know what? I think I did a pretty good job, then that's good. That's just, I think that's some objective self evaluation where you can go, look, it's not all me, but I had a part in it. So I think it did a pretty good job. They're good people. And I don't know, do we want more than that for our kids than to be good people? Really? At the end of the day? Yeah,
Right.
we want material things for them, and we want them to have a good job, make a good life, and be supportive, and all of that. But at the end of the day, if I can be proud of my kids because they're good people, that's enough.
Yeah. I'm with you. To the guy who wrote it, a lot of that resonated with me as a young father. Um, and the first thing you gotta do is let go. I know how dumb it sounds, but it's the hardest things are the things that make it work. Is you gotta let go of all the crap you thought you knew about being a parent and understand what I think Joe and Kurt have verbalized in their own ways. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's doing the best they can with what they got.
Well,
And
and even from child to child,
Yeah.
it's different.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You're the same parent, but those child need vastly different lessons.
I learned that so fast, so early. When my son was about 1.5, he would jump on the bed and I would sweep his legs.
Of
And
course
and
you would,
and,
Daniel
and,
son.
and he would land on his back and he'd be laughing his
Yeah.
ass off.
Yeah.
I did that once with my daughter and she cried like nobody's business. And I went, oh, they're different. Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, that is something else. But you know what? To that point, you're different than how
Yeah.
your parents were because of life. I mean, I'm so painfully aware of the life that I've built for my children to be different than the one I had growing up. But also, we had the internet invented while we were here in this recording group, late teens, early college age, right? We were young adults, if you will. And our kids were born into that world. And my kids don't have very many friends in the local area, like real life come hang out people. Most of their people are on Discord playing Roblox and different things with them, you know, like we do now as adults, right? Well, our conversations are not hanging out at my house, except for one time a year. It's in our Discord and stuff. But that's what they're growing up in. So it's a world that the perspective of how to go through it will be difficult for me to grasp. But what I had to do is understand the same principle went backwards of, my father was in Vietnam, and his father was in World War II and the Korean War. I watched Desert Storm from the comfort of my bedroom. You know, um, we went through. We talk about being Gen X. We went through a whole different way of parenting versus what we do now. That's the thing. You got to make it about yourself, in my opinion. Going back to that thought of what he was saying of just not. I want to be more. I want to be present. Then drop the want and be. That's the easiest things are the hardest things. It's like you think you have to do this or that and the other. You just got to learn to let go, and that was the hardest one for me to learn. And we'll probably do it. Daddy, tell me a story or something in another couple of shows. But this one, like random kid, my wife and I joked about this constantly with our kids. You just got to aim for the least amount of future therapy visits. That's not wrong. So yes, you have had some comments. All right, random kids taking over now. Being a parent is trying to balance your kids' happiness while trying to teach them life lessons. Absolutely, to a point. Honestly, here's the struggle of that. Joe, Kurt, jump in here. I've recently realized my struggle was not necessarily trying to balance my kids' happiness while teaching them life lessons. My struggle was my mom was super hard on me without some balance, and so for my kids, I pulled back and wasn't nearly as hard on them. And I'm starting to realize that I had balance of love and balance of happiness, but I didn't bring as much strength as I should have. What do you got? Have y'all experienced anything like that? Were you swaying away from how your parents raised you a little bit and realize, I should come back more towards it?
Joe, I don't know how you feel about that, but I mean, I think that every parent says, well, I'm going to do things better than my parents did. And whether or not your parents were actually cruel people or anything like that, it has nothing to do with that. It's like, well, they did things this way, but I think I can do it better. And that's the bravado of a young person, generally speaking. And I think that's good. I think that's healthy, because that means
you can do it better.
Well, it just means you're trying to be different.
Yeah.
And being different is good. That's how innovation happens, right?
Yeah.
And so, like in my family, I grew up with my parents yelling and in some cases spanking.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, and I said, I'm not doing that. I don't think I need to. Now, that was the hubris of a young person. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous, but I did that. So did I ever yell? Yes. However, like with Avatar, bear with me. When I yelled, it meant something because that wasn't the norm.
It's true. People who yell all the time, your kids just tune it out.
Yep. And so, and I think I mentioned this once before too. And so the outcome of that is when my stupid sister says to me, and I call her stupid because I don't like her. But she says, how do you get your kids to behave? Because she communicated by yelling all the time. And I said, oh, I tell them no.
Yeah.
And that sounded really stupidly simplistic, and I was being a jerk when I said it. But boiling the cabbage down, I told my kids no at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning, I had yeses and I had nos. And it wasn't could you please just do this? No. Do this. And then there were black and white no's. Because I still believe to this day that's what kids need.
Yeah. I agree. That's one of the major successes I have had with my now. One's a young man, and my daughter's becoming about to graduate in high school, and the hard no's were far and few between.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've respected that. When I come down and just flat out say, I don't like it, I'm not going to pass it, or I have my reasons, or whatever it is, there's no pushback on that one. Now, I also yell a lot, but I leaned into it and was like, look, I'm a loud person, but I want to build a world, especially for my daughters. I want to build a world where, or actually for all my kids, you know, the daughters, I can see an overbearing man being in their life, but also there's people in their lives that bosses. And I want them to be like, you think you're going to intimidate me by yelling? That's all my dad ever did was yell. So come on. And I've talked to him about that. And because I had to work on it myself, but because like you said, Kurt, the constant anger and it was just fear and didn't have an effect. And it didn't have a positive effect to where I wanted to go.
Well, especially if there's no difference, right? If that's the majority of it. Random kid said, if you never say no, you're probably a bad parent.
Yeah.
Now, here's the weird thing. I'm going to actually take exception to that, because the problem is that it's easy for us to judge externally. But if we're in the heat of the moment as first-time parents, I still believe, unless you have no empathy whatsoever, you're just trying to do the best you can in the heat of the moment. And so
never say no.
No. I'm just saying I can't make
Oh,
that
you don't
judgment.
judge the bad parent.
Right? Yeah, I can't make that judgment that
You're
if
right. You're just a bad
that they're
human.
a bad parent. No, they just don't know any better. Like
oh, Kurt, I don't know, man. I just
But you're not with them 24/7, and so you're only seeing a snippet of those other parents.
Right.
But if they take a hard look at themselves and they're never saying no, they're probably
I
a
think
bad
I see where you're landing, Kurt. It's a judgment
agree.
of calling them bad.
So I'm not even necessarily disagreeing. I have a hard time. I have a hard time with black and white statements about people that we don't know. You know, and if you never say no, you're probably a bad parent. Well, I think that there's more nuance to it than that. And that's all. Because look, I don't think
they might speak a different language. Maybe they're saying 9.
Right. Right. And again, I have a really hard time even with the statement of never say no. I don't believe anybody never says no.
Yeah.
Go ahead, stick that fork in the socket.
I like this though. This is something I very much focused on when the in-laws had all the money, you know, and so the Christmas and the birthdays were all piled up. I realized I didn't need to worry about stuff for my kids, which is very freeing. I didn't feel guilt about not being able to keep up. Like, oh yeah, I'm broke and you guys are piling on, but I was able to build memories. And that's, I mean, anybody's been in my house, you see the wall of fame with all the collages every year for my wife and all of our family stuff. And that's what we've done. Like Disney was very curated to build lasting memories with both kids, you know, both sets of kids at different ages there. Because we knew the likelihood of taking all 6 of us to a Disney park was probably once in a lifetime. And as of now, it's proven to be once in a lifetime. Not that we can't go back, and I've been back, actually pissed him off. When I was in Orlando last year with my business partner, and he's like, yeah, let's go to Disney. I went, I ain't saying no, but yeah. But my son's 19 and going on 20. And so he's building his own life, and he has a girlfriend. If things go the way things go in life, they'll be married at some point. And now getting them to Disney as a family, that's tougher, right? So definitely it's not about Disney so much as the happy memories. We do that here locally. I'm sure you guys did. I mean, that's the key at the end of it all. They don't talk about that game or toy you got them back in 1982 or okay, Joe, that was a year that people were alive. So for you, 1992. But they will talk about the snowball fight you started in the kitchen because it was funny or those kind of things.
Yeah. What Random Kid also said was you need good memory generating moments instead of therapy generating moments. Here's the weird secret about that. You're not going to know that they're therapy generating moments until much, much later. Like literally you're not going to know. And it could be that in the moment you think, oh, this will be a nice moment. Or at best, you're not thinking of it as bad, good, or anything. It's just a moment. How that affects them long term, who knows?
Yeah.
I like if my daughter came and said to me, "Hey, so I had to start seeing a therapist because remember how terrified I was at the amusement park rides at Disney World? I can't go near a roller coaster without freaking out now."
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
who knows that up front? You just don't know. So
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, I had some moments like that with my parents, and they just don't. I mean, it's not a thing. The thing that was the thing to you that was impacting you, you drug around for your life for 16 years to finally deal with it, is that exact same thing. Kurt's like,
yeah.
What? I don't remember that moment. Sure, I'm sorry. What do you want me to say?